everyone, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are talking about some new releases for 2025. Because I am always way too excited about new releases, or I don't hear about some of them until closer to when they are actually released, I do quarterly new releases here on this channel, so we are going to be talking about quarter 2 for 2025, which is going to be April, May, and June. I have 38 books to share with you today that I have found since the beginning of the year, since the end of last year, potentially even, that I am excited for. And yes, that is quite a bit. I do feel like this is a slightly higher number than I sometimes have around this time of year, but I do find that a lot of the books that I'm excited for do seem to come out late spring and summer, and so we're definitely getting into those months. And so, yeah, I guess we should jump into this. Most of these I will probably end up reading some of the summary off of Goodreads just because this is too much for me to remember. But yeah, 38 titles, let's get into it. Okay, and so because I have to pull up everything on my computer, we will probably hear a little bit of extra noise in the background. I am sorry about that. But otherwise, we have one book coming out on April 1st. And that is going to be The Thorns by Dawn Kurtagich. This will be YA. I've read a Kurtagich book before that I thought was better than okay, but not like my favorite, so I'm very curious about this one. Touch a line, you break your spine. Stacy is the dusty air, the cracked soil, the drought. To 14-year-old Bethany Sloan, she's everything. Abandoned by her mother at a remote African boarding school, Bethany will do anything to stay in Stacy's good graces, and that means learning the rules of each twisted game. Touch a crack, you break your back. 17 years later, Bethany is a best-selling author. Disabled now, she can't remember what happened back in the bush, but there's no mistaking Stacy Preston's name in her inbox. Glassy, cut my RC. Okay. That email brings Bethany's childhood rushing back. The Glass Man was just a story the Thorns invented, a game of wits. But every game has its rules and consequences for breaking them. To stay alive this round, Bethany needs to play right into Stacy's hands. Okay, so actually, this is going to be adult. Has she written any other adult ones? I know she usually writes young adult, and so I was under that impression currently, right now. Obviously, I was not under that impression when I first heard about this, because that makes more sense. I'm very much more into the adult space with books. That is what I gravitate towards most. And so while I liked well enough her young adult that I read, I'm very much more intrigued by this now. Okay, moving into April 8th, there are 2 books releasing on this date. The first is going to be Cold Eternity by S.A. Barnes. This will be a new space horror novel, so we have a mixture of sci-fi and horror. Haley is on the run from an interplanetary political scandal that has put a huge target on her back. She heads for what seems like the perfect place to lay low, a gigantic space barge housing the cryogenically frozen bodies of Earth's most wealthy citizens. The ship and its cryo program are long defunct, but Haley starts to think she sees figures crawling in the hallways, and there's a constant scraping, slithering, and rattling echoing in the vents. It's not long before Haley realizes she may have gotten herself trapped in an even more dangerous situation than the one she was running from. I love sci-fi, I love horror. I like this author a lot, so I'm very excited for this one. And then the other one releasing on this date is Last Chance to Save the World by Beth Revis. This is the third and I think final book in her Chaotic Orbits series. I read the first one, Full Speed to a Crash Landing, earlier this year. Really enjoyed it. 4.5 out of 5 stars. They are novellas, so because of that, I really want to read the second one and immediately jump into the third one because of how they're set up. But basically in our first one, our main character is sort of stranded in a dying ship near a wreck. And this other crew that was coming to salvage the stuff from the wreck has to save her, and it has this like fretful situation in it because of this like weird new planet that they're near. I really liked the characters, I really liked the look into it, and one of the things I purchased Full Speed to a Crash Landing back when it originally came out, but one of the reasons that I picked it up this year is that Beth Revis was talking about how one of her main villains, which appears to probably be in book 2 and 3, not book 1, is actually based on Elon Musk. So I really want to read this one as well. Then moving into April 15th, we have 3 books releasing on this date. The first is The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. So this one is going to be like epic fantasy. After 24 years on the throne, it is time for Burson the Brusque, Emperor of Orun, to bring his reign to an end. In the dizzying heat of midsummer, 7 contenders will compete to replace him. Trained at rival monasteries, each contender is inspired by a sacred animal: fox, raven, tiger, ox, bear, monkey, and hound. An 8th, the dragon proxy, will be revealed only once the trials have begun. 8 exceptional warriors, thinkers, strategists, the best of the best. Then one of them is murdered. It falls to the brilliant but idiosyncratic Nima Kra to investigate, but as she hunts for a killer, darker forces are gathering. If Nima succeeds, she could win the throne, whether she wants it or not, but if she fails, she will sentence herself to death and set in motion a sequence of events that could doom the empire. So yeah, epic fantasy. I think there's some political stuff going on in here as well, but the fact that we have these, like, deadly trials, I really want to read this one. And then we also have Inked in Ashes by Shannon Mayer. It says it's for fans of Once Upon a Time and Wicked, and yes, very much so. I've spent 25 years in the Hollow, poor as dirt, cursed with a stepmother who hates me, and dreaming about a faraway land that I don't understand. The only 2 things that make life worth living are my falcon Fetch and my best friend Molly. But when Maul's plot to land a royal husband at the palace ball goes horribly wrong, I find myself staring at a king with a glass stiletto buried in his chest and a blood-covered Molly standing over him. We've got to move, and fast, or we'll both wind up swinging from the hangman's noose. Worse, the palace sorcerer is using everything he can to find the culprit, including raising the dead. More complicated, Duncan, brother to the king, whose eye I've unintentionally caught, a man whose secrets might be deadlier than the undead soldiers breathing down our necks, is making me second-guess everything I've known. With revolution brewing and a mysterious man calling to me from my dreams, I have no choice but to embrace my fate. But what if my fate is beyond anything I could ever imagine? What if the only land I've ever known isn't home at all? What if I'm trapped inside a fairy tale and the only way out is through? I love the idea that this has multiple sort of hints of a fairy tale, but we're definitely twisting it up. And then the next one we have here is A Fellowship of Bakers and Magic by Jay Penner. This is a book that I've definitely been interested in for a while, and it was indie published. I think it's been picked up by another publisher. I don't know if it's actually like a fully traditional publisher or what, but I'm really enjoying this new cover here as well. A human, a dwarf, and an elf walk into a bake-off. In the heart of Adinashire, where elf enchantments and dwarven delights rule, Arletta Starstone, a human confectionist, works twice as hard perfecting her unique blend of baking and apothecary herbs. So when an orc neighbor secretly enters her creations into the prestigious elven baking battle, Arletta faces a dilemma. Being magicless, her participation in the competition could draw more scowls than smiles. And if Arletta wants to prove her talent and establish her culinary reputation, this human will need more than just her pastry craft to sweeten the odds. While competing, she'll set off on a journey of mouth-watering pastries, self-discovery, heartwarming friendships, and romance, while questioning whether winning the baking battle is the true prize. So this is going to be cozy, fantasy. I am so into this. Then we're going to be moving into April 22nd, and there are 2 books releasing on this date. The first is When the Tides Held the Moon by Vanessa Vita Kelly. Beningo Benny Caldera knows an orphaned Boruca blacksmith in 1910's New York City can't call himself an artist, but the ironwork tank he creates for famed Coney Island playground Luna Park astounds the eccentric sideshow proprietor who commissioned it. He invites Benny to join the show's eclectic cast and share in their shocking secret. The tank will cage their newest exhibit, a live merman stolen from the salty banks of the East River. More than a mythic marvel, Benny soon comes to know the merman Rio as a kindred spirit, wise and more compassionate than any human he's ever met. Despite their different worlds, what begins as a friendship of necessity deepens to love, leading Benny's heart into uncharted waters where he can no longer ignore the agonizing truth of Rio's captivity and his own. Releasing Rio could mean losing his found family, his new home, and his soulmate forever, yet Benny's courageous choice may just reveal a love strong enough to free them both. And then we also have Anywhere You Go by Bridget Morrissey. This is not a very big summary, but it's pitched as a queer take on The Holiday Meets The Switch, in which a small-town waitress and big-city press agent swap homes to escape their personal lives, only to complicate their situations further when they each find love away from home. I absolutely love The Holiday, and I'm very excited for this one. And then moving into the last part of April, April 29th, there are 4 books releasing on this date. The first is Dreamslinger by Gracie Kim. This is Amari and the Night Brothers meets Pokemon. 14-year-old Aria Loveridge lives at the Rest Haven Home for Dreamslingers, a safe haven for children born with a genetic mutation that transports them to a powerfully magical realm while they sleep. But this magic can be unpredictable, even deadly. After all, it was only 10 years ago when members of the Royal League of Dreamslingers caused the Great Outburst, a tragedy that killed hundreds of people, including Arya's mom. Since then, Arya's dad has become the leading expert on Dreamslinger welfare, which means Arya knows better than most what it takes to keep society safe from her and others, like separation, identification, and most importantly, power suppression. So when the Kingdom of Royal Hanguk, home of the Dreamslinger League, announces the first Dreamslinger trials where teenage slingers from around the world are invited to compete for a chance to join the League and learn how to use their powers, Arya knows that she must join the trials and take down the League from the inside. But the trials introduce Arya to a world of wondrous magic and friendship, a world where she finally feels like she belongs. And as dark secrets from the past are revealed, ones that make Arya question her very identity, she becomes even more determined to discover the truth for herself. She just has to survive the trials first. So again, this one's gonna be middle grade fantasy, but again, magical trials. I'm so excited. The next book we have here is Awakened by A.E. Osworth. I'm loving this cover. On a morning much like any other, 30-something queer Brooklynite Wilder makes the miraculous discovery. Suddenly, as if by magic, they can understand every language in the world. Dazed and disconnected, Wilder is found and taken in by a small coven of trans witches who have all become awakened with mystical powers of their own. Quibble, a handsome portal traveler, Artemis, the group's caretaker and seer, and Mary Margaret, a smartass teen with telekinetic powers, all work to make the cagey and suspicious Wilder feel comfortable, both within their group and with the knowledge that magic is in fact real. Just as Wilder is finding their footing, a malicious AI threatens to dismantle the delicate balance of the coven and the world as they know it. Newly assembled and tenuously bound, the group scrambles to stay united as they parse the difference between difficult and dangerous, asking themselves continuously, is any consciousness, be it artificial, material, or magical, too dangerous to exist? I'm loving the idea of magic and technology meeting, fighting, in those veins, yes. The next one we have here is Pucking Around by Emily Rath. This is another one that has been indie, been out for a while. I have been excited about it, but it looks like it's been picked up by a different publisher, given a new cover, so I decided we needed to mention this. My name is Rachel Price, and 2 months ago I walked away from the perfect man. Sweet, funny, and so sexy he should be illegal. We shared one magical night, no names, no strings. I never thought I'd see him again. I was wrong. As it turns out, Mr. Perfect is the Playboy grinder for the Jacksonville Rays, the NHL's hottest new hockey team, and thanks to the 10-month fellowship I just landed, I'm his new physical therapist. Imagine my anticipation as those familiar muscled legs walk toward me, the way my pulse races as he reaches out to shake my hand. The jerk doesn't even recognize me. This is going to be the longest 10 months of my life because now Mr. Perfect Mistake is determined to use his every seductive trick to win me back. Meanwhile, I also have to contend with his best friend, the surly team equipment manager, and an exasperatingly stubborn, superstitious goalie who's convinced I'm his good luck charm. This is my chance to prove myself, and I'm not risking it for anything. But between one expected night and one secret revealed, these men are ready to test my limits. Still, I can't fall for a player, let alone 3. Or can I? And yes, I'm pretty sure she can. This should be a why choose romance. And then the last one coming out on this date is The Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig. 5 high school friends are bonded by an oath to protect one another no matter what. Then, on a camping trip in the middle of the forest, they find something, a mysterious staircase to nowhere. One friend walks up and never comes back down. Then the staircase disappears. 20 years later, the staircase has reappeared. Now the group returns to find the lost boy and what lies beyond the staircase in the woods. So this is going to be an adult horror. I've read some other stuff by Chuck Wendig that I really enjoyed, and so I'm very excited for this one. Okay, moving into May, and on May 1st, there's one book coming out, which is called Don't Give a Nix by Allie Williams. Running a pub by a river isn't easy for a nix, but I'm determined to have an ordinary life. So what if my hands are covered in burns from accidentally touching steel kegs? It's a small price to pay to see my best friend Maria every day, to be normal. But the river goddess Tristan Tona wants more from me, and I'll be damned if I comply. Welcome to the gods-touched universe where the gods interfere in the lives of mortals, magic leaks back into our world, and love conquers all. So this should obviously be some sort of paranormal romance with a Nyx as one of our characters. And then moving into May 6th, 3 books are releasing on this date. The first is Kiss Me Maybe by Gabrielle Gamez. Librarian Angela Gutierrez has never been kissed, but after posting a video about her late bloomer status and ace identity, she's finally ready to get some firsts out of the way, using her new influencer status to come up with a scavenger hunt idea in which the winner earns her first kiss. Angela realizes she may need some help to pull off the event. Enter Crystal Ramirez, hot bartender and Angela's unrequited crush of 5 years. Despite vowing that romantic love isn't for her, Crystal seems awfully determined to help Angela pull off the scavenger hunt and find true love. There's just one thing, the connection between Angela and Crystal is getting stronger and stronger the more they hang out, until Angela isn't sure she wants to go through with the scavenger hunt after all. But Crystal is convinced that she isn't capable of love, and before long, Angela realizes she's falling head over heels for a woman who may never love her back. I love the idea of the ace identity in here, and so we'll see. This is obviously going to be a sapphic romance. And then we also have Overgrowth by Mira Grant. Mira Grant is Shauna Maguire's pen name for her adult horror novels, in case you were not aware. And this is going to be Annihilation meets Day of the Triffids. Okay, this is just a story. It can't hurt you anymore. Since she was 3 years old, Anastasia Miller has been telling anyone who would listen that she's an alien disguised as a human being, and that the armada that left her on Earth is coming for her. Since she was 3 years old, no one has been willing to listen. Now, with an alien signal from the stars being broadcast around the world, humanity is finally starting to realize that it's always been warned, and it may be too late. The invasion is coming. Stasia's biological family is on the way to bring her home, and very few family reunions are willing to cross the gulf of space for just one misplaced child. What happens when you know what's coming and just refuse to listen? And then the next one coming out on this date is Salty, Spiced, and a Little Bit Nice by Cynthia Tamati. Ellie Peng has had enough of her controlling family, who has been micromanaging her life since her type 1 diabetes diagnosis. When her parents orchestrate a public proposal from their business partner's son, a proposal that goes humiliatingly viral, Ellie escapes to the other side of the country to put her dream of opening a sugar-free bakery into action. After all, she's done her research. How hard can it be? She hits a snag when her storefront turns out to be a dump and in need of major renovations. Worse, the only person who can help her turn things around is Alec Mackenzie, her brother's best friend and the man responsible for crushing her teenage heart 10 years ago. But Alec has a proposal of his own. He needs a pretend girlfriend in order to cement a business deal. All they need to do is feign love and affection while trying not to maim each other. But when the thin line between hate and fake madly in love starts to blur, and buried secrets resurface, Ellie must learn to trust her heart and choose between love and family. Fake dating. I love fake dating. And then moving into May 13th, we actually have 5 books releasing on this date. The first is Dream On Ramona Riley by Ashley Herring Blake. So obviously this will be an adult sapphic romance because, as we all know, Ashley Herring Blake has been writing a lot of these, and I'm very, very excited for this. So once upon a time, Ramona Riley was a student at a prestigious art school with dreams of landing in Hollywood as a costume designer to the stars. But after her father's car accident, she had to quit and return to her small New Hampshire town, Clover Lake, to help take care of her younger sister. 12 years later, Ramona is still working at the town's cafe, all but given up on her dream. But when a big-budget romantic comedy comes to Clover Lake to film, she wonders if this could be her chance. There's only one problem. Dylan Monroe, her first kiss and Hollywood's favorite wild child, is the star. Dylan Monroe has always lived an unconventional life, having famous rock icons for parents. But she wants to prove that she's not some chaotic, talentless Nepo baby, that she has actual skills, that she's just a normal person. To do that, Dylan takes on a project at a charming lake town. She even works at the town's cafe, very quaint, shadowing a local waitress there, very cute, and asks her to take Dylan around to do normal people things. But Dylan soon realizes it's not just some small-town waitress she's getting to know. Ramona Riley is someone she's met before, someone who remembers her even more vividly. Before long, however, reality hits them, and both women must decide if the spark between them can fan the flames of their individual dreams, or if it will extinguish their light. And then we also have Snow Angel Volume 1 by Haruka Chizu, so this is obviously going to be a manga. Long gone are the days when Muku Shiroshika would play carefree in the snow with her childhood friends. Thrust into a thankless caregiver role, Muku wants to break free from her oppressive family and regain control of her life. When her childhood friend Yuto pays her an unexpected visit, she finds hope in his words and decides to take a chance on happiness. But as she works to define herself, she finds that breaking free of her family's influence is harder than she thought. And then we actually have another manga. This is going to be Sakura Saku Volume 7 by Ayo Sakisaka. I have really been enjoying this series and I'm very excited for this next one. This one is about a girl named Saku who ends up having this event happen on a train where she forgets her purse and gets faint, and somebody saves her by helping her and giving her her purse back. And she has this note that says it's from Ryosuke Sakura. And so she has decided she's now in love with this guy that she has never met. All she has is a name. And she then goes to school and finds this guy's brother is in her class. Things go from there. It is very, very cute. I have been loving everything. I'm very excited to see where this next volume is going to go. We have friendship aspects, romance aspects. Like, I'm so ready. The next book coming out on this date is The King's Man, Book 1 by Anita Sunday. Kale knows the healing magic is for the privileged, and Parlinea, like him, exists only to serve. But when his forbidden spellbooks vanish and his father arranges his marriage to settle a debt, he flees into the royal woods where he stumbles upon dying soldiers and a poisoned noble. Using illegal medius magic, he saves the noble's life only to entangle himself in a dangerous game of politics. Now hunted for magic he shouldn't possess, his only escape is to secretly compete in the mage examinations and prove himself a true Vitalian. But the capital is a den of vipers, and two men stand in his way: Silvius, the secretive fugitive who saved his life and kissed him like a promise, and Quintus, the sharp-tongued merchant who challenges him at every turn. Both dangerous, both holding secrets, both about to change his life forever. So this is an author that I've read quite a few things from before. I'm very intrigued by this. It says it's good for fans of The Captive Prince, The Magician's Guild, and The Priory of the Orange Tree. And then the last book coming out on this date is going to be Saga Volume 12 by Brian K. Vaughan. Again, this is a long series now that I have just been absolutely loving. I feel like a lot of people on BookTube know about this one because it is a mixture of sci-fi and fantasy and sort of like Romeo and Juliet type of stuff going on, where we're following this family who are on opposite sides of this like intergalactic war. I've really, really been enjoying it. It is very mature though, so just keep that in mind, but I am so excited for the next volume. Then moving on to May 20th, one book is releasing on this date, which is going to be Behooved by M. Stevenson. Bianca knows her duty comes before her heart, so when the threat of war looms, she agrees to marry the neighboring kingdom's heir. But not all royal weddings are a fairy tale, and Prince Eric, Bianca's betrothed, is cold, aloof, and seems to hate her on sight. To make matters worse, on their wedding night, an assassination attempt goes awry, leaving Eric magically transformed into a horse. Bianca does what any bride in this situation would do. She mounts her new husband and rides away to safety. Sunset returns Eric to human form, but they soon discover the assassination attempt is part of a larger plot against the throne. Worse, Bianca has been framed for Eric's murder, and she's now saddled with a husband who is a horse by day and a frustratingly attractive man by night. As an unexpected romance begins galloping away with their hearts, Bianca and Eric must rely on each other to unravel the curse and save the throne. This reminds me of like a gender-bent sort of swan princess type of thing. I'm excited. And then moving into the last date I have for May 27th, we have 3 books releasing on this date. The first is Problematic Summer Romance by Ali Hazelwood. We don't have a cover or anything yet, but it looks like this is the date that it's showing, so we shall see. It says Maya Kilgore is 23 and still in the process of figuring out her life. Connor Harkness is 38 and Maya cannot stop thinking about him. It's such a cliche, it almost makes her heart implode. Older man and younger woman, successful biotech guy and struggling grad student, brother's best friend, and the girl he never even knew existed. As Connor loves to remind her, the power dynamic is too imbalanced. Any relationship between them would be problematic in too many ways to count, and Maya should just get over him. After all, he has made it clear that he wants her gone from his life. But not everything is as it seems, and cliches sometimes become plot twists. When Maya's brother decides to get married in Torima, she and Connor end up stuck together in a romantic Sicilian villa for over a week. There, on the beautiful Ionian coast, between ancient ruins, delicious food, and natural caves, Maya realizes that Connor might be hiding something from her, and as the destination wedding begins to erupt out of control, she decides that a summer fling might be just what she needs, even if it's a problematic one. Then we also have the Midwatch Institute for Wayward Girls by Judith Russell. This is for fans of The Swifts and A Series of Unfortunate Events. Maggie Fishbone is not expecting much when she's sent to the Midwatch Institute for Orphans, Runaways, and Wayward Girls, the last resort after causing a ruckus at the orphanage where she was living, except the institute isn't some dreadful, dreary place like she thought. Instead, it's full of curious girls training to solve mysteries, fight bad guys, and keep the city safe. In between fencing lessons and discovering all the shortcuts in the building, Maggie finds herself making friends at the Midwatch and finally feeling like she's home. And when a woman goes missing, Maggie's off on her first assignment, with each step leading leading her deeper into the secrets of the city. With gorgeous black and white illustrations and pages of useful things every girl should know, like how to send messages in Morse code and how to shout extremely loudly, the Midwatch is a whimsical, adventure-filled mystery from this author. Like, I'm looking for some more middle grade in general, and I like this idea a lot, so yeah. And then the last one on this date is the Grimoire Grammar School Parent-Teacher Association by Caitlin Rozakis. When Vivian's kindergartner, Aria, gets bitten by a werewolf, she is rapidly inducted into the hidden community of magical schools. Reeling from their sudden move, Vivian finds herself having to pick the right sacrificial dagger for Aria, keep stocked up on chew toys, and play PTA politics with sirens and chthonic nymphs and people who literally can set her hair on fire. As Vivian careens from hellhounds in the school corridors and demons at the talent show, she races to keep up with all the arcane secrets of her new society. Shops only accessible by magical portal, the brutal trials to enter high school, and the eternal inferno that is the parents' WhatsApp group. And looming over everything is a prophecy of doom that sounds suspiciously like it's about Aria. Vivian might be facing the end of days just as soon as she can get her daughter dressed and out the door. Another cozy fantasy type of thing. I'm very excited. And now we're going to be moving into June. On June 3rd, we actually have 8 books coming out on this date. This is the largest amount I have ever had at once, I want to say. So June 3rd is a lot. The first one is I Hear the Sunspot 4 Seasons Volume 3 by Yuki Fumino. This one is going to be a manga. It's another series that I have really been enjoying. It's a male-male romance, new adult romance, where the first one takes place in college. And then as we go through the series, we have different things that they have to deal with in life, finding work and all this kind of stuff. And one of the things that I really love about this is one of our main characters is hard of hearing, and so we do have other characters who are hard of hearing or deaf, and we get this commentary about what that means for them, both in life, school, work, relationships, all that kind of stuff. I absolutely love the series and I'm so excited. Then we also have Ladies' Night by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. Gwen is sick of hiding the fact that she's taken over her father's blacksmithing duties, hiding her attraction to girls, hiding her yearning for glory as a knight. Meanwhile, Lady Isabel of Avington, Queen Bee of the castle, has never once considered hiding who she is, until now. She's been chosen as the grand prize in the tournament of dragon slayers, to be given to whichever knight can claim her hand, and for the first time in her life, she can't talk her way out of trouble. When Isabel discovers Gwen's knightly ambitions, they hatch a scheme together. Gwen will joust in the tournament disguised as Sir Gawain. Winning means freedom for Isabel, and glory for Gwen. Losing means, well, let's not go there. One thing's for sure, falling in love was never the plan, but the best laid plans are often trampled all over by dragons. The next one we have here is Cosmic Love at the Multiverse Hair Salon by Annie Mayer. Tressa Faye Robertson has never been shy, which is how she's made a name for herself as an in-demand hairstylist and social media star. So she can admit that spending her days at her hair salon and her nights with her tight-knit group of friends and one grumpy cat is not the kind of exciting life she'd hoped for. When a misdirected text from a stranger leads to a flirty exchange, she surprises herself by suggesting an impulsive meetup. But the woman, Meryl, never shows. Tressa Faye brushes it off until Meryl's sister and friend show up at the salon demanding to know what's going on. Because, you see, there's no way Meryl could have texted her. Meryl's been missing for a month. Tressa Faye and her tight-knit group of friends soon discover they aren't dealing with a catfish, but a temporal paradox. As they come to terms with the idea of parallel universes, they realize how many times their paths have crossed like this before. But even as they understand the multiverse more and more, nothing keeps Meryl from vanishing. As it draws closer to the moment of Meryl's disappearance, there's only one question. Have they done enough to change the outcome? Or have they done so much that none of them will make it past that fateful day in September? This is going to be obviously some sort of like sci-fi, but it's also going to be queer, sapphic romance type of stuff. I'm so ready for this. The next one we have here is Heir of Storms by Lauren Hamilton Murray. This is going to be Red Queen meets Shadow and Bone, a YA romantasy, and this is the first book in a trilogy. The very day Blaze came into the world, she almost drowned it. A rain singer born into one of the most powerful, fire-wielding families in the Empire, Blaze's birth summoned a devastating storm that left thousands dead. She's been hidden away ever since with a dark secret. The same torrential power that branded her an outcast disappeared that fateful day, and she's not sure she wants it back. When an unexpected invitation arrives for Blaze and her twin brother Flint to compete as future rulers of the Empire, she's suddenly thrust into the limelight again, and into battle. Threats abound at the Golden Palace, where intrigue and romance await, with not one but two handsome suitors, the enchanting crown prince and a dangerously alluring newcomer at court. As Blaze explores her untapped power, she discovers the throne may be within her grasp, but in order to take it, she'll have to leave behind the stories that others have told about her, and find the courage to write her own. The next one we have here is The Listeners by Maggie Stiefvater. This is going to be, I think, her first adult book, and it's going to be historical fiction. January 1942, the Avalon Hotel and Spa has always offered elegant luxury in the wilds of West Virginia, its mountains, Sweetwater washing away all of high society's troubles. Local girl turned general manager June Porter Hudson has guided the Avalon skillfully through the first pangs of war. The Guilfoyles, the hotel's aristocratic owners, have trained her well, but when the family heir makes a secret deal with the State Department to fill the hotel with captured Axis diplomats, June must persuade her staff, many of whom have sons and husbands heading to the front lines, to offer luxury to Nazis with a smile. Meanwhile, FBI agent Tucker Minnick, whose coal tattoo hints at an Appalachian past, presses his ears to the hotel's walls, listening for the diplomat's secrets. He has one of his own, which is how he knows that June's balancing act can have dangerous consequences. The Sweetwater beneath the hotel can threaten as well as heal. June has never met a guest she couldn't delight, but the diplomats are different. Without firing a single shot, they have brought the war directly to her. As clashing loyalties crack the Avalon's polished veneer, June must calculate the true cost of luxury. I am so intrigued by this. I have no idea what we're going to get with this. I like a lot of stuff that I've read by Maggie Stiefvater. I've read pretty much every single thing she's ever done. So we'll have to see. Then the next one we have here is Worth Fighting For by Jessie Q. Sutanto. So this is going to be part of the Meant to Be series, which are all reimaginings of Disney fairy tales in adult romances. Mulan is reimagined as a contemporary romance about family expectations, mistaken identity, and high-stakes mergers. As the right hand of her father's hedge fund company, Fa Mulan knows what it takes to succeed as a woman in a man's world, work twice as hard, be twice as smart, and burp twice as loud as any of the other finance bros she works with. So when her father unexpectedly falls ill in the middle of a critical acquisition, she is determined to see it through. There's just one thing. The family company in question is known for its ultra-masculine whiskey brand and the brood of old-fashioned aunts, uncles, and cousins who run it, led by the dedicated but overworked Shang, will only trust Mulan's father, Fa Zhou, with the future of their business. Rather than fail the deal and her father, Mulan pretends she's Fa Zhou. Since they've only corresponded over email, how hard could it be to keep things moving in his absence? But the email leads to face-to-face meeting, which leads to an invitation to a week-long retreat at Shang's family ranch. One meeting she can handle, but a whole week of cattle wrangling, axe throwing, and learning proper butchering techniques, all while trying to convince Shang's dubious family that this young woman is the powerful hedge fund CEO they've been negotiating with. Not so much, especially as she finds it harder and harder to ignore the undeniable spark between her and Shang. Can she keep her head in the game and make her father proud, all while trying not to fall into a trough or in love with Shang? Then the next one we have coming out, because I said there's a lot here, is Dan in Green Gables by Ray Terciero. This is going to be a graphic novel reimagining of Anne of Green Gables. Despite a life on the road with his free-spirited mother, 15-year-old Dan Stewart Alvarez has always wanted to settle down. He just didn't think it'd be like this with his mother abandoning him in rural Tennessee with two strangers, his gentle grandmother and conservative, rough-around-the-edges grandfather. Here he is forced to adjust to working on the farm, entering high school, and hardest yet, reckoning with his queerness in a severe Southern Baptist community. But even as Dan grows closer to his mama, befriends fellow outsiders at school, and tries to make a new life for himself in Green Gables, he has to discover whether he can contend with intolerance and adapt to change without losing himself in the process. So again, I know one of the big things about Anne of Green Gables is the fact that they wanted a girl and they got a boy, but this is going to be about being queer as well. I'm very curious about this one. And then the last one coming out on this date is Of Monsters and Mainframes by Barbara Truelove. Demeter just wants to do her shuffling of humans between Earth and Alpha Centauri. Unfortunately, her passengers keep dying, and not from equipment failures as her AI medical system steward would have her believe. These are paranormal murders, and they began when one nasty ancient vampire decided to board Demeter and kill all her humans. To keep from getting decommissioned, Demeter must join forces with her own team of a werewolf, an engineer built from the dead, a pharaoh with otherworldly powers, a vampire with a grudge, a fleet of cheerful spider drones. Together, this motley crew will face down the ultimate evil, Dracula. It is a queer love child of pulp horror and classic sci-fi. I'm very curious about this one. I think the mashup, like they said, of pulp horror and sci-fi could really, really work, so I'm excited. Okay, and then moving into June 10th, there are 2 books releasing on this date. The first is With a Vengeance by Riley Sager. In 1942, 6 people destroyed Anna Matheson's family. 12 years later, she's ready for retribution. Under false pretenses, Anna has lured those responsible for her family's downfall onto a luxury train from Philadelphia to Chicago, an overnight journey of 14 hours. Her goal? Confront the people who've wronged her, get them to confess their crimes, and deliver them into the hands of authorities waiting at the end of the line. Justice will be served at last. But Anna's plan is quickly derailed by the murder of one of the passengers. As the train barrels through the night, it becomes clear that someone else on board is enacting their own form of revenge, and that they won't stop until everyone else is dead. With time running out before the train reaches its destination, Anna is forced to hunt the killer in their midst while protecting the people she hates the most. In order to destroy her enemies, she must first save them, even though it means putting her own life at risk. And the other one coming out on this date is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. Both of these are authors that I've read a ton of stuff from, and I am really curious about this as well. Santo Domingo de la Calzada, 1532, London, 1837, and Boston, 2019. 3 young women, their bodies planted in the same soil, their stories tangling like roots. One grows high, and one grows deep, and one grows wild. And all of them grow teeth. That's all we have here. I have heard that this is supposed to be in the same universe as Addie LaRue. We'll see about that. And then finally, we have one more date here, June 17th. There are 3 books releasing on this date. The first is I Think I'm in Love with an Alien by Anne Aguirre. Anne Aguirre wrote one of my favorite sci-fi romances, which is Strangelove, which was indie published, self-published. This one looks like it's going to be more traditionally published, but again, sci-fi romance. Galaxy Quest meets Roswell. Got me sold right there already. He's stranded, he's desperate, he's not looking for love. Alien Tamzir Jarn, aka Seeker, is paying the price for risking an illicit holiday on an interdicted planet. His ride off-world never showed, and he's been stranded on Earth for nearly a year. His gear is breaking down, food is becoming a problem, and if his camouflage unit fritzes, he'll wind up in a government lab. But he's met some cool humans online, and they've invited him to the biggest space-themed convention around. Why not make memories with them while he figures out how to get home? SpaceCon or bust. She's nerdy, she's flirty, she's ready for romance. Jeanette Hammond is an endearing weirdo, voted most likely to bang an alien in high school. Her house is full of gray man collectibles, adorable tentacle monsters, and yes, in college, she volunteered for a SETI-type program. Not that she's ever had any close encounters of the sexy alien kind. Heck, she's never even been able to convince anyone to attend SpaceCon. But that's about to change. Finally, she has online friends who have agreed to go, and it will be a romp to remember. And she'll finally put a face to the name of her longtime crush, Seeker. When Alien meets Adorkable, they're destined for an out-of-this-world affair. Then we also have The Ripple Effect by Maggie North. Burned out former ER doc Stellar J. Bird can solve any crisis except her own life. But with her financial prospects dwindling, she'd do anything to stay in her beloved, pricey wilderness town, even take a job as a camp physician at The Love Boat, an unspeakably touchy-feely whitewater canoeing relationship therapy startup. If there are sing-alongs, she's calling in sick. What's worse, the founder is Lyle McHugh, the sunshiny psychologist she's masterfully avoided since their disastrous hookup last year. Hard-headed relationship being counterstellar plans to dodge his pathological generosity from now until September, but after a scathing article puts McHugh's credibility into question, the two are forced into a fake engagement to salvage the camp's crumbling public image. It's strictly business, but the more closely they work together, the more Stellar realizes her feeling for Lyle are anything but professional. This summer is nothing like Stellar expected, but could it be exactly what she needed? With a colorful cast of campgoers, including a journalist intent on bringing the Love Boat down, and an estranged celebrity sibling, plus a dash of corporate espionage, Maggie North's signature heart and heat shine in The Ripple Effect. Again, I love a fake dating. Yes. And then finally, the last book that we have to talk about today is Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. Joni Lark is living the dream. She's one of the most coveted songwriters in LA, and she can't seem to write. There's an emptiness inside her and nothing seems to fill it. When she returns to her hometown of Vienna Shores, North Carolina, she hopes that the sand, the surf, and the concerts at the Revelry, her family's music venue, will spark her inspiration. But when she gets there, nothing is how she left it. Her best friend is avoiding her, her mother's memories are fading fast, and the Revelry is closing. How can she think about writing her next song when everything is changing without her? Until she hears it. A melody in her head, lyricless and half-formed, and an alluring and addictive voice to go with it, belonging apparently to a wry musician with hang-ups of his own. Surely he's a figment of her overworked imagination. But then the very real man attached to the voice shows up in Vienna Shores. He's aggravating and gruff on the outside, nothing like the sweet, funny voice in Joni's head, and he has a plan. They'll finish the song haunting them both, break their connection, and hope they don't risk their hearts in the process. Because that song stuck in their heads, maybe it's there for a reason. I actually really love a lot of Ashley Poston's adult romances. They're contemporary with a little bit of magic, and so, yeah. Those are all of the books we needed to talk about today, all the ones coming out in the next 3 months that I am very excited for. Let me know if there's anything that you're excited for that I missed, because I'm always looking to add new books to my TBR, as we can tell. And if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos. I do have videos coming out Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so I will see you then. Bye!